In today's video, I'm going to be showing you how to build an awesome gaming PC for in and around a $1,500 budget. A build that's going to be perfect for 1440p and high frame rate 1080p gaming, and features AMD's new Ryzen 5 9600 Non-X, an RX 9070 GPU, and a brand new PC case from Montech that I'm actually really excited about. Let's do this. The Corsair Frame 4000E is here and better than ever. With a spacious and fully modular design, you can configure this case to meet your build's exact needs. Improved airflow at the front and on the side helps to keep temperatures down, while Corsair's new InfiniRail mounting system allows you to adjust fan rails for added versatility and a cleaner aesthetic. What's more, it's compatible with reverse connector motherboards, 360mm all-in-one radiators, and comes with an integrated GPU anti-sag arm. Learn more and check it out at the first links in the description below. And now let's start off, shall we, by looking at the case, because it's a part that I'm really excited by. Now, we first covered an early iteration of this at Montech's Computex 2024 booth, and this is their HS01. Now, it's being released alongside their HS02, which costs you around $10 more, and actually has some pretty cool design features that I think a lot of you are going to like. Now, it's inspired evidently by the likes of an NZXT H7 or H5, and that's most apparent when you take off the tempered glass side panel and see that the intake for this case is actually coming from the bottom. Now, there's a gap at the bottom where the case feet sit, with three 120mm reverse blade intake fans that are going to pull air into the chassis. You keep the 360mm radiator and triple 120mm fan support at the top that most cases have, and you have room for 120mm fans at the front, although I'm not sure based on the clearances a radiator is going to fit. You also get two included 120mm fans at the rear in an exhaust configuration, and that moves the power supply to the front right of the chassis. Now, I like this because it gives you that uninterrupted view of the graphics card and helps with things like GPU clearance too, and is going to prioritize GPU airflow above all else. Now, the other thing Montech have done here is they've sunk the motherboard tray in. The idea behind this is that the motherboard should then look flush and give the PC a more built-in feel overall. Now, the graphics card by default comes in the standard horizontal layout, but you can flip these lanes around for a vertical layout, and you can even flip all of the internals so that rather than mounting it on the right-hand side of the case, you mount things on the left-hand side. Pretty cool, right? Now, the HS02 is different because it ditches the mesh at the front and replaces it with a wraparound curved tempered glass side panel. I will be doing a build in this soon, so make sure you get subscribed so you don't miss that. But I have to say, I do like it. It's just a little bit different, something a little bit unusual, and especially Montech as a brand who are known for their dual chambers, it's good to see them do something a little out of the box. Now, in terms of the parts that I've gone for, I'm going to start by talking about the GPU. Now, as if the GPU market wasn't already broken enough, the tariffs are only going to make things worse. So why then have I picked the RX 9070? The reason I've gone for this card over the XT variant is because demand for the XT variant is crazy right now, and the likelihood of picking up this non-XT card is greater. It's still going to provide you better performance than an RTX 5070 by quite some margin, and here in the UK at least is actually available for not a great deal more than its MSRP. Of course, at MSRP, the XT version makes more sense as it gives you quite a bit more performance for, at MSRP, without the tariffs, not that much more money. But that's not the real world. That's the imaginary mystery land of graphics card MSRPs that we haven't seen for a very long time. In terms of other components, where we're trying to keep a lid on cost and make sure this system has got the budget left for things like the GPU, the AMD Ryzen 5 9600 makes a lot of sense. Now, this is the 9600 Non-X, so it's a replacement essentially for the Ryzen 5 7600. You still get 6 cores, 12 threads, it even has integrated graphics, which AMD never used to have on their cheaper CPUs, and you get an included stock cooler if you want to save a little bit of money and go down that route. Now, full transparency, in today's build, I haven't gone for that option, and I've instead gone for what might look quite overkill, but there's a reason. Now, this is the Montech Hyperflow 360. It's consistently one of the cheapest 360mm all-in-ones on the market. You can read our testing, which shows this punches well above its weight for its price tag of around £80, $80. And in this case today, one thing I was worried about was getting enough airflow. We want that airflow to go from the bottom of the case up and through the top. Going for an AIO like this not only gives great CPU cooling, but also allows us to have extra fans and boost the airflow profile of the system as a whole. 3 decent RGB fans alone are going to set you back £20, £25, so I think this just makes a lot of sense based on that reasoning. Also want to briefly touch on the power supply, as the new Corsair RM750e 2025 V3, whatever they're calling it, is really impressive and the perfect fit for the build today. It's Cybernetics Platinum and Cybernetics A for noise and efficiency respectively. All the cables are really clearly marked and they're individually nylon sleeved and combed together, which I think is a really, really nice touch. I think Corsair have really made a step forward with some of their recent products, and this power supply is thankfully no exception. And that just leaves me with 3 components left to talk about. And now is a great time to actually go ahead and start getting these installed. At the hub of today's build is the motherboard. I've gone for the Gigabyte B850 Eagle Wi-Fi 6E. I've used this board in a lot of my builds, to be honest, and I think it's just one of the best value B850 boards on the market right now. You still get PCI Gen 5 support, which is really important. That's actually present on both the top M.2 and PCI X16 slot, which is great to see. And I'll also be installing a 32GB kit of Corsair Vengeance RGB. This is a 6000 MHz kit, so nice and snappy, and a 2TB Crucial P310. This is basically the replacement, as I understand it, for the P3 Plus, which is again a drive we've used on the channel loads. So with that, I'm going to begin by installing the CPU into the CPU socket. This is nice and easy. If you've not done it before, just push the arm down. You guys have probably seen this a million times, and drop the CPU in, aligning the triangle in the top left corner of the socket. Arm goes back into place and keep the plastic cover safe in case you need it in the future. I'm then going to follow up by installing the RAM into the 2nd and 4th RAM DIMM slots of the board, making sure to pull back the clips at the top of each of those DIMMs and wait for the satisfying into place before finally adding the NVMe drive, remembering of course to remove any protective peel on the M.2 heatsinks. With the motherboard all sorted, I'm then going to lay the case down when removing the glass panel. It feels quite unnecessary, but I guess I'll be well behaved and follow the rules. The case is already configured for standard ATX motherboards, but it looks like it's kind of got a slot under this piece on the bottom, or maybe this piece on the bottom needs to come up. Okay, it turns out you don't need to lay the case down flat for that, because you actually need to get some screws at the rear in order to be able to install the motherboard, which is a bit weird. And then, that makes sense. I guess maybe we could put this back on later for aesthetic reasons if we wanted to. And then lay the case back down flat for the 2nd time. And with everything now actually easily accessible, slide the motherboard into place. It's kind of weird it being recessed, I can't lie, but I actually get the idea, I think. Oh, I need to get these. Oh, shit. Oh, I've never ever done that. In all my years of building computers, that has never happened. Time for a slow-mo replay. Now the reason I was doing that, and like I have to say, this is like not that intuitive so far, is the screws for the case are like in here, and I can't take this off because it's screwed in. Right, so let's take that out. So far I like the case. There's just lots of things you have to take out in order to be able to actually install anything. And that can be quite confusing for the first time PC builder. So let's try that again. Let's slide the motherboard in for real this time, and then use the included screws to secure it down. And breathe. Take a breather, relax, calm down. It's an enjoyable, relaxing process. Just to clarify, if you do buy the system pre-built from Geek PC here in the UK, we won't ship you that motherboard, don't worry. I'm not that mean. I'm not that stupid. But I'm confident everything will be just okay. The next phase of the build is going to be, I think, the CPU cooler. One of the good things about this case is that because the cooler is going to sit so high, it's actually not going to impede on any of the power ports for things like the fans or the CPU power at the top of our motherboard up here. The 360mm AIO is going to fit comfortably at the top. As I say, I don't think you're going to get it in on the side, purely on the basis of this actual power supply incursion just here, but the top is going to be great and allow again for that continued through airflow. As I suspected, the cooler is actually pre-assembled, and what that means is that if you're going for an exhaust configuration, which we are, it's super easy to install. Simply take the cooler out of the box and then drop the cooler into place. How easy is that? The screws you need to secure this to the top of the case are included with the CPU cooler. Anywhere in the region of about 8 or 9 screws, right up to a maximum of 12 is going to be absolutely fine, and make sure this thing thing isn't going to go anywhere. With the radiator at the top, I'm then going to go ahead and take the top plate of the cooler here and take off the pre-installed Intel bracket and swap this out for the AMD one. So just slide that off. Does require a little bit of pressure. Slide the new one into place. There we go. And I'm then going to go ahead and hook that over the top and bottom brackets that come pre-installed on the motherboard and then tighten the thumb screws up. I'll get you a nice little close-up so you can see exactly how this kind of bonds on, but make sure you use a screwdriver to get it nice and tight on the top and the bottom. And with that done and dusted, it's time for the PSU. Now, I think the 9070 officially only needs a 650 watt system power supply, but a 750 watt unit isn't going to hurt, and it's not going to cost you a great deal more money either. I'm not going to cover off the sort of detailed cabling and wiring in this video. If you want to see that, we have actually got a full cable and wiring guide on the channel in the card section now. And what I'm going to do is just install the power supply, get all the cables wired up, and deal with the front panel cables too. And with the power all connected, the final step is the GPU. Now, this is the Gigabyte Gaming OC 9070. There are obviously other cooler variants available. My honest advice would just be to go for whichever is the cheapest and represents the best value wherever you are. Now, this is a fairly plastic card. That helps to make it cheaper compared to the slightly more premium feeling metal designs. And it's got this sort of slightly weird movable strip at the front, which I think is to hide the RGB maybe? Or the Radeon logo. I'm not really too sure. Anyway, let me hover the graphics card in and see what we're working with. I think I'm going to stick with a standard horizontal installation in this build rather than vertical. And it looks like I need to take out the top 2 PCI slots. There are little holes here for the screwdriver, which is good, although that one doesn't really fit. So I'm going to swap that out and use a slightly lower profile design. So just be aware if you've got a chunky screwdriver, it ain't gonna work. Before going ahead and pushing back the notch on the PCI slot and sliding the graphics card into place. A couple of the screws that I just took out to secure back in to stop the card from going anywhere. And then of course, time to finish off the GPU installation with a pair of 6+2 pin PCI power cables. So that's the first, and then the second, both neatly into place. Now, I haven't gone ahead and configured any of the RGB or really tidied things up just yet. However, we may be able to do an early switch on to see what this is sort of vaguely going to look like. Hit the power button, the fans are spinning, the lights are on, the RAM's lit up, and wow, that thing looks good. Even this little RGB strip here is really nice, and I'm guessing on the front of the case, we're gonna have some form of button for the RGB. Oh yes, look at that. Now give me a little bit of time to get this thing refined, tidy up some of the cable management, and I'll rejoin you in a moment after some beauty shots of this really unique looking gaming PC build. Moving through into performance then, and this build stacks up really well across a broad range of games. Whether you're looking to play demanding AAA titles like Alan Wake 2, Cyberpunk and Hogwarts Legacy, or easier to run games like Apex Legends and Fortnite, you can see on your screen now the 1440p results were pretty good on the whole. Apex Legends, as one example, pretty much hits the 300 FPS cap with 298 frames per second on average. Fortnite at 1440p high settings surpasses 130 frames per second all told, and Marvel's Rivals, which I know is massive right now, still pulls in over 100 FPS at 1440p on the high preset with 120 FPS on average. This is a build that looks really cool, and I like what Montech have done with their new HS series. I'm particularly excited to build in the HS02, which I think for marginally more money might represent a slightly more glamorous overall design, but even still, I love this build, and the focus on airflow and low temperatures is really pleasing. You can find links for latest pricing and availability in the description below for Amazon and Newegg. Get subscribed if you enjoyed this one, and as always, we'll see you in the next one.